is, as a group, discuss and enter your responses to all four situations on page 299 and 300. I'll read them and then we can just talk about them. Write your responses to each situation separately in your report. So the first one is handling publications and advertising material. And so this is, James told you his manager was furious when he admitted he had been throwing away over half the advertising material at the time it arrived, never giving his manager an opportunity to see it. His manager discovered this through conversations with different callers who asked about the mailed advertisements. James seemed confused about what to do with booklets, advertising material, and other standard mail and has asked for your advice. Knowing his manager wants to see all the mail, what guidelines can you suggest?
My first question was, why didn't James know that ahead of time?
Well, don't be so hard on James.
And sorry if I came across harsh, but that's kind of like the first thing you ask when you're doing that. Do you want to see all the junk mail or not? Hi, Dad, I see you now.
I got it. I hope it doesn't cut me off early, though.
Okay.
The first thing that came to my mind was, why is he assuming this? Why did he assume that he should throw it away?
There's a very fine line between taking initiative and assuming something. And so I think maybe we should give him credit for taking initiative to try to save his boss time and not giving him all the junk mail.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, I do too, because we actually had our frontline tellers go through the mail, and so anything that they thought was junk, they were throwing away. And we kind of went down just to see how they were sorting the mail every day. And I mean, and for the most part, we appreciated some of the real junk that they were chucking, and we totally approved it. We ended up looking at some of the pieces that we felt were at least worth a look on management side. And so all of that comes into my box, and then I sort it for the 4 executives from that point. But one of the questions is, how would you do that? Well, because I went down and met with the tellers and we looked at what they were doing. Then I went and met with each executive to say, what do you want to see? This is the stuff that I'm getting. What would you like to see? And we kind of just looked at each piece, and so I kind of do what they say. I put the most important stuff on the top, and the stuff that they're probably going to look at and throw away on the bottom. But I'm able to throw away almost half the mail that I get from what the front line throws away before it even gets to their desk. So I mean, we appreciated that they took that initiative to throw away what truly was junk.
All right, I think that's pretty good. And when all else fails, the thing to do is just meet with your manager and ask him what he wants you to do. And if he says, oh, throw out any of like the newspaper type ads or something like that, but everything else just put in a folder and I'll toss it, then just do that.
Yep.
That sounds good. It just goes back to my question of that should have been a conversation when he first started, happy to handle it, to see what they wanted.
All right, second one is increased mailing costs. You and 3 other office assistants in a management consulting firm have the responsibility for reviewing certain cost areas, one of which is the mail operation. For the past 3 months, your team has noticed an increase in mailing costs. After your team reviewed the mail-related expenses, the following were discovered: an increase in express and priority mail to meet deadlines, letters returned with incorrect and insufficient addresses, and several items sent using incorrect mail classifications. Among team members, discuss possible solutions, advantages, and disadvantages of each solution, and recommend at least 3 changes to reduce mailing costs.
Well, I discovered huge difference in costs between the U.S. Postal Service Express Mail and FedEx and UPS for the same packages. And sometimes, if you can get hooked up with a special rate with UPS, you can save like $3 a package on an overnight. So that's one thing to do, is to see, okay, is anyone comparing the costs on the items?
Hey, that made me think of something that's sort of along the same lines, but that might help you guys in the future. I sold a textbook, to a girl that was taking the class after me, and I went to the UPS store, and it talked about this in this lesson, is about the media mail. So this book was going to cost me almost $20 to ship. And then at the end, she said, well, what's in the package? And I said, it's a textbook. And she said, oh, we can send that media mail. And it only cost me, I think, around $8 to send. So if you guys ever send a textbook or sell something, remember to use the media mail. You can also use that at the UPS store.
Well, the UPS store actually, if you're using United States postage at the UPS store, they are bumping up the cost. It's always cheaper to go to a regular US mail place to do that. And the other thing is, I would tell you, is that I had to research this, and if you include a note of any kind, the media mail will charge you for a letter, and they routinely open media mail packages. So if you don't want your package being opened, media mail is not the best way to send it, because they think people are trying to avoid paying the appropriate cost.
Okay.
So just to have on your radar, if you're going to put a letter in it, add the extra forever stamp on it so that you don't get dinged for that.
The other thing that can save money is if you send a lot of regular, like priority mail envelopes and things like that, you save about 15% if you print the label out from your computer using USPS.com versus going into the post office and doing it.
And the other nice thing about that is if you're sending several packages or letters that you want scanned into the system so that you have confirmation that it made it to the post office, they have this thing that gives you a single sheet scan that you can take in when you're dropping the packages off the mail. Or, last I knew, in some areas, your local postman also had a scanner that would scan all the packages at one time, which was very cool.
What about the mail coming back with incorrect, insufficient addresses?
I couldn't hear that.
What can they do to take care of letters returned with incorrect and insufficient addresses or incorrect mail classifications?
Well, the addresses are only as good as what the people give them. We had to do a mass mailing of like 500 one time. We were surprised that like a third of them came back as undeliverable. But we had to go on from the list that someone else had provided us. And so, annoying, but it had to be done that way.
So one of the things that we did, just, where I'm at a credit union and we mail, tens of thousands of statements out each month. One of the things that we started doing is we instituted a returned mail fee to our to our members that, so, and I'm not sure if it's 3 or 4, that once we get back so many mail because their address is incorrect, we start billing the fee, and then we hope that they see that on their statement that they're being billed a mail fee for incorrect address, to force them to come in and change their address. And we've seen a significant drop in our mail, being able to do that. Just with all of our customers, it's been it's helped us. And sometimes we'll go ahead and refund that fee just because they came back in and changed their address. So it's not like something that, you know, we're going to totally stick them with a fee, but it's kind of a way for us to incent them to come in.
Yeah, motivating.
Yeah.
Motivating. Switching gears just a little bit, there's also a reduced rate for when you're sending out marketing materials. Mass mailings are also at a reduced rate, and you have to sign up with the post office to get a special certificate or permission to do that, but it can save like 10 cents a mailing.
Yeah, we use bulk rate all the time.
Okay, bulk rate is correct.
Yep.
That doesn't apply to statements, it only applies to marketing materials. Is that right or no?
Yes, only marketing.
And as far as the wrong category, that's a training issue.
You also have, you know, maybe another employee check things out before they go, but you have to weigh the cost of an employee to do that versus the cost of the postage when it comes back.
Yeah.
You may reduce your postage costs, but your labor costs might go up.
That's a possibility, absolutely. Yep.
Yep. So that's one of the things that I put down as the changes, like the 3 changes, was to increase training for employees, review deadlines, because I know that that was one of the things that they talked about, you know, make sure you're reviewing deadlines with those people that need packages to go out. Those were just a couple ideas I had.
Reviewing deadlines so they don't have to be overnight packages.
Right.
By the way, some post offices, you have to get it to the post office by a certain time, and it changes based upon where the package is going for their next day express mail.
Yep.
Okay.
All right, number 3, incoming mail. As an office professional to your new office manager who receives a heavy correspondence load, you would like to suggest that she lets you review and preview her mail each day before you distribute it to her. Knowing your previous manager never delegated this task, how can you propose this suggestion, giving sound reasons for it and indicating how it would assist her by saving time?
Well, it would allow her to prioritize it for her, which would be very helpful.
Yeah, one thing I said would be for her to proactively go and meet with the new office manager, set up a time with her. I mean, for that office manager to set up a time with a professional to say, hey, you know, let's go over your mail. This is what I'm willing to do for you. You know, once I get cutting your pattern down, and, you know, see if she can just take that on in the future. Because, you know, depending on how the professional is, she probably never had anybody offer that to her before. And it's kind of that taking initiative that we talked about earlier. If she takes that initiative to say, hey, this is what I'm willing to do, that office professional might be, yeah, that would take a ton of time off my plate.
Well, and most offices have a policy of date stamping mail when it comes in. And generally you want the date stamp on the piece of mail, at least for all of the first class and special delivery stuff, not for junk mail, obviously.
They must be pretty relaxed because we don't date stamp. That's
And I worked
That's an
in-
interesting concept.
Oh, I worked in law office where, yeah, you date stamped anything
Oh.
except for junk.
That makes sense.
Knew when it might be needed.
One thing that I thought about was you could offer the manager to just kind of do a trial period for a week so that she can see your organizational skills and how you prioritize things, and then just be really open to changing it and adapting it to their preferences.
I think doing a trial makes it seem like less of a big deal. It's not like she's going to be sucked into this for forever if she doesn't like it.
Great idea.
All right. Number 4, handling incoming mail for multiple managers. You support 6 managers. Every day, each manager receives at least 20 pieces of mail. In addition to the following: the Wall Street Journal, 2 or 3 newsletters, 2 or 3 trade journals, and advertisements. 3 of the managers want you to log in their important mail. Important mail has not been defined, and the other 3 managers need all the help you can give them in handling their incoming mail. They are not well organized in handling their paperwork, much less handling the incoming mail in an efficient way. What actions can you take to handle your manager's mail efficiently and avoid mixing up their mail? I would have like a collapsible folder for each manager. So when the mail comes in, I just line up all 6 of them on the desk, and that way you only have to handle it once. So you look at the piece, see who it's for. Collapsible folder, you can have advertisements, important things like that. So then just put it in there either as you open it, or you can have a note on the front. If a manager doesn't want his mail opened, then you just put do not open mail, and just put everything in there and sort it out with that collapsible filing folder.
Yeah, I had almost the same. I said come up with a filing system and define in that filing system what each manager would like. And meet with each manager and give it. So like the ones that really don't know, tell them what you're going to do as a best practice. Because I go through people's mail right now, and for the majority, they just want the important stuff, which has to pertain exactly to their job. They don't want all the rest of that. And if there's something they feel like I can handle, they don't even want to see it.
And I think the big thing with all of these is just getting to know your manager and seeing what they want, offering some suggestions, having good communication. And if there's some things you can take off their plate that they're comfortable with you doing, then I think they appreciate when you offer that. Sometimes they may say, no, I want to do that, or I'd rather do that.
Then I think the other part of that too is make sure that there's where you talk about communication, because I'll notice that the president, for some reason, it's almost seasonal what he wants. And so I just check in with him every once in a while to see if there's anything that he might be looking for, or he might be waiting for, that I can, watch out for. Just, so kind of that communication, but and that's probably just part of it. Just touches base every once in a while to make sure we're still on the same page.
I'm sorry, say that last comment again.
Just making sure that like you touch base every once in a while. Like for my boss, he's seasonal on what he wants to see. During like the winter months, he wants to see like conferences and things that might be new and coming up. But during the summer, he's not interested in like conferences that are going to happen during the summer because he doesn't want to go to them. He just wants to travel. He wants to go on vacation. And I mean, and he's got specific ones that he likes to go to. Or sometimes they'll come to me and say, I'm really interested in going to a conference that has this. So watch for that and give it to me. And, so part of that communication is, even constant, follow up just in case, is there anything that you should be seeing? Is there anything that, I should be taking out or, that I'm leaving in there that you'd rather not see? So I just know with my boss, there's a little bit of that seasonal thing, but that's what I've learned with him. The other two that I do their mail for, they'd really rather not have one piece on their desk if I can make that happen.
I agree with you. It's all about what they want.
Yep.
All right. The next section, step 2, is as a group, identify a list of 5 to 10 general principles or guidelines that should be followed in dealing with email and regular mail in an office setting. Include these principles or guidelines in the report for this activity.
Well, the book said to check your email like twice a day. Not often enough. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think you have to check it. Twice is not enough because everything I do at work is through email, and I have to check. I check my email probably once an hour, unless somebody might even call and say, "Hey, did you see that email?" Make sure you read it.
Mm-hmm.
I think sometimes too it depends on what you do. Also, because like our frontline staff, we don't want them checking their email very often. We've told them maybe once or twice a week, twice in the afternoon, because we really want them focused on handling our members, customers that walk through the door. But like I'm on my email, I've kind of tracked what I do, and I get on average about 100 to 115 emails a day, and so I have to check mine constantly.
And so that's a really good point. It all depends on what your office needs are.
Yeah.
One of the things I put for just general principles for mail is honor confidentiality. If you're reading an email and you realize, oh, they didn't mean to send it to me, or if you do open mail for somebody else and it's kind of a sensitive nature, just stop reading and let the person know it got sent to you and inadvertently, or just put it in a folder for the manager and let them know.
I have a story from years ago when we had changed offices, and so when the mail was forwarded, it always had those yellow stickers on there that covered things up, it had the forwarding address on it. Unfortunately, my boss did not tell his mistress the new address. And so the envelope came in, and I didn't see the personal and confidential on it because it was covered up by the level. And when I saw it, I put it in the envelope and put it on his desk, and or said anything about it. It was very awkward.
Oh man.
because I was like, 18 or 19 at that point.
Yeah, personal and confidential is kind of interesting because I think sometimes some advertisers put that on there so you'll open it. But most of the time, the ones I get are like job offers from other places.
Which it would be appropriate
Yeah.
for it to be personal and confidential.
Well, and one of the things that we brought up too is really, if you understand email, even if you say this is personal and confidential, you can forward it with a blind copy and forward that on. And so that, I mean, confidentiality, is really big, but email is a little bit sometimes of a risk if somebody doesn't do that. And they're forwarding something to be of a, a little bit of a tattletale or something else. So, we kind of said maybe email or mail isn't the proper way to do it. Maybe you need to do a phone call.
In the law office, that what happened a lot. There were many things where you needed to say something to a client and not want that to be tracked.
Yeah.
So definitely I agree with you on that. Some things require a phone call.
Yeah.
In the professional setting, it talked about this not using sarcasm or joking when you're communicating.
And I'm making notes. Elaborate on that a little bit, Zach.
Well, you know how sarcasm is not going to, you're not going to be able to convey it through an email or even a text. So you're better off not using it. You're just being straightforward and professional. I guess humor would be okay, but I mean, most of the time at work, at least my work, it's all, it's professional. I mean, you have something that needs to be done and they lay out what needs to be done and you respond.
And I think that's one you just brought that up to, Zach, is the response. If you get a piece of mail that requires a response, do it timely. Or if you get an email that requires a response, you do that one timely as well. But that, maybe it's the courtesy of, responding to things in a timely manner. I think is.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. The timely. I had a boss, our last boss. You could send them email after email, and then you'd call and say, "Hey, did you get a chance to read this?" And he would never read them.
Yeah.
What did you guys think about in the text? It talked about whether you should send a separate email for each issue or whether you should combine them, because I have reasons to do it, not reasons to do it. So I was just wondering what everyone's feedback was.
I think it depends on how important the issue is and what the people are used to. For instance, I send a weekly email out to the board of directors, and so I give them just kind of broad information over several subjects. But if I wanted their feedback on a particular issue, I'd probably send a separate email, because I don't know what their habits are. They may see the weekly email and be like, oh, that's just the normal stuff that's happening. And if I included it in that, they may not have opened it. They may have opened it but not read it. So I do something different with a special regarding line, something that gets their attention.
Well, and if you are going to send multiple, because one of the things that I found, if I want to send multiple things, that they need to be like bullet point, short sentence things. But because if I do, you know, kind of like you said, a full paragraph for each topic in one email, they'll read the first paragraph and they'll miss everything else. So lots of subjects. Because I've learned, I used to send emails that used to say interesting things or things to remember, and never fail, they'd only read like one or two. Then everything else got lost.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I was at. It all depends on the circumstances of like where your boss is. If he's out of the office, sometimes a real short email or text with just a single subject makes good sense.
Yep.
Oh, I had one. Don't forget to take your vacation automatic reply off when you get back.
You must have.
And
forgot to
off
do
your
that.
voicemail.
All right, Kristen, what's your idea?
Okay, so mine that I was thinking about is reread what you wrote before you send it, because that can be really embarrassing with typos and stuff. Like the other day I was emailing my dad, so it wasn't that bad because it's my dad, but I said Hobby Lobby instead of Hobby Lobby, and that just was kind of embarrassing for me, just because you want to be professional and sound professional, and yeah, so
Yeah, that really
reread before you send.
bugs me with like the discussion board posts when I see stuff.
Mhm.
Did I tell you guys about the one where somebody was in one of the religion classes or books, something about she really admired the 2000 stripping warriors?
Yeah, like that's so embarrassing, especially if you don't notice.
But if you have that happen to you a couple of times, then you learn that it's important.
And
if
watch out if you're sending stuff on your phone, like autocorrect, sometimes that will sometimes it changes your words completely.
Yes. And you have it right, and then you go on, you've corrected, it's autocorrect, but then after you've gone a couple more words, it's autocorrected that word again.
Mhm.
So yes.
Just watch out.
So Kristen, what you said too, that also goes along with if you're angry and you're sending an email, reread it and wait.
Yeah.
Don't do it in caps and minimize your exclamation points. But that's what they said. Wait, write it, reread it, come back to it.
Yeah, I remember reading that.
And if you're writing an email that is particularly sensitive, whether you're mad or not, don't address it until after you're absolutely sure it's ready to send. Because sometimes there'll be a glitch with the computer and it could send, and it's like, I wasn't finished with that. And then you look like an idiot because it went and you didn't tell it to.
Yep.
10 messages at 5:50 on Friday afternoon. The neighboring general manager, whenever he wants to send me something bad, he sends it like very end of the day on Friday, and I think about it all weekend long. Because I don't have time to compose a response or anything. So.
And by the same token, I told my daughter things on the phone that I knew she'd be upset about just so that I wouldn't be home when she was upset. Annette, you're laughing. Have you done that?
Yeah. I've done that with employees at work when I know I'm actually going to be traveling and I'm not going to be in the branch when I need to address an issue, and then that gives them a little time and me a little time to refocus before we meet in person. Yes. And with my stepdaughter, that did happen. And then she didn't come home for a couple days. So I don't know what that was.
Was that one of those good news, bad news things for you?
Well, yeah, she went and spent the weekend with her mom, so that was perfectly fine.
Yeah, it was a good news, bad news thing.
Yes.
Okay. So, in the interest of time, have we gotten enough for step 2?
I've got enough.
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do we have any questions?
I'm good.
Yeah, I don't have any questions.
Kristen, do you have any questions?
I don't, but if I think of any, I can email you guys.
Well, think about that email before you send it.
I'll do my best. I'll do it on my computer so my phone doesn't autocorrect anything.
Okay.
All right, then. Do
Hey,
we
Lorelai,
have a discussion next week?
hey, thanks for helping me out, Lorelai.
Yep, I'll do that when I get back.
Thank you.
You said we don't have one next week?
I said, I don't know if we do.
Oh.
Maybe our last one.
I can jump. Let me jump on real quick.
We probably do next week, but not the next week.
Well, and who knows what he'll ultimately do. I think he's the king of, let's change things up.
Yeah, so the one next week talks about that we have to enter our responses to all 4 situations found on page 548, developing critical thinking skills, problem solving on the job. 5 to 10 reasons how the gospel and being a covenant making member of the Church of Jesus Christ can help you meet challenges. So that's the discussion for next week.
That sounds interesting.
Okay.
Sounds good. Well, we'll see you all next week.
All right, thanks, guys. See ya.
Have a good weekend.
Thanks.
Have a good party.
Bye.
Bye.